these different factoring trees or graphic organizers a little bit here. First, we've got factoring. When do I do what? So you know how we take out the greatest common factor? So we look here. These are examples below. So like this first example right here where it's like 5x plus 10. Do you guys got this sheet in front of it? It's with the shapes. It's got the pentagons on it. Okay. This is when we take out the greatest common factor. We take out a 5 and we're left with x plus 2. Okay? That's what we're calling for the greatest common factor. Take out the number or the letter that they have in common. Okay? If x squared and there are 3 terms, we do reverse foiling. So I'm going to do this first one right here again. That's where I take the box. I've got my x squared. I got my 8, so I know I've got x and x. What 2 numbers multiply to give us 8 that add up to give us 6? That would be 2 and 4. So it's x plus 2, x plus 4. That's what we mean by reverse foiling. Okay? If it's x squared minus and 2 perfect squares, this is when we do the perfect square thing. What's the square root of x squared? It's just x, right? What's the square root of 25? 5. So we have 5, we have plus 5, and we have minus 5, and that's it. So if it's just got 2 terms and they're perfect squares, we can just do this. Okay, I'm doing that one right there. When all else fails, we use the quadratic formula. Do you guys remember the quadratic formula? Yeah, that's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? So if I was going to do this first one right here, this would be a, that's b, that's c. So I'm going to go minus, you guys please be quiet in the back, minus a negative 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times 17 all over 2 times 2. And then we put this all in our calculator all at once. So 2 negatives make this a positive. So try this with me, guys. If you get out your calculator, I like to switch my calculator. The first thing I like to do is make it into this fraction like this has. So I hit Control Divide. Then I'm going to put 3. I'm going to use just the plus sign first. And then square root. And I put in parentheses negative 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times 17. And then I go to the bottom and I put 2 times 2. So I'm going to end up with, oh, it's not real. So there's one that doesn't work. Do it again. Minus, this is a bad one because it has no real answers. No real answers. Okay? So this is just kind of a graphic example. When you get to a problem, you can be like, I don't remember how to solve this. You can look, well, can I take out a greatest common factor? Do I have to do this Punnett square thing, reverse foiling? Is it an easy one where I can just square root both of them? Or do I have to use that quadratic formula? Okay? All right, let's look at the next one. Okay, this is talking about the same kind of thing, just in a little bit different way. First, look at greatest common factor. Then, if it's 2 terms, you take out the difference of 2 squares. So that's your x plus 8, x minus 8. 3 terms, you're going to factor using the Punnett square. X squared and negative 42, we get x and x. We're going to end up with negative 7 and positive 6. So x minus 7, x plus 6. Okay? Trinomial, we call it slip and slide. When there's something in front of the a, is there something I could take out of all of these? It looks like I could take out a 3. So then I get 10x squared minus 9x plus 2. Okay, is it easier to factor now? And then we've got this one for 4 terms is factoring by grouping. So this, I could take out an a squared. So I could go a squared, and I'm left with 2a minus b. This one, I'm looking at it, okay, 10 and 5, I could take out a 5. So I'm left with 2a minus b. Oh, look, they both have this in it, and then my factoring is just a squared plus 5 times 2a minus b, and I'm done. Okay. All right. Questions on these? All right, I think we should practice some factoring using these if we need them. So let's go to our factoring. You guys got this yesterday. Let's look at the back. I'm going to use a separate sheet of paper. If you guys can fit it on there, feel free. If you want to, if you're like, I don't know where this is, if you want to just write down what I write down on my notebook paper, you'll be fine. Okay? So let's start with, this one. We've got, I don't like any of these. Ugh. All right, let's start with this one. We've got x squared plus 2x plus xy plus 2y. Okay, how many terms does this have?
4.
4. So I'm looking right here. Okay, I'm looking for 4 terms. So I think I'm going to do grouping first. Okay, see if that can help. All right, so if I'm looking at these first ones, what do these two have in common? What could I pull out of there? Yeah. So I'm just left with x plus 2. What could I pull out of these next two? What do they have in common? X, y, and 2y. What do they both have in them? Y. So I'm left with x plus 2. Oh, there we go. They're both the same. So it's just x plus y times x plus 2. That's it. That's the whole factoring. Let's try a different kind, and you guys tell me what I need to do. How about this one? We're going to do about 5 of these, and then we're going to move on to something else. We've got x squared plus 7x plus 12. So, do I factor by grouping? No. So I'm going to have to do that Punnett square thing, right? There's no number in front, right? So I don't need to factor out a number. So I've just got this Punnett square thing. I've got x squared right here. I've got a 12 right here. So x, what times what gives me x squared, guys? Put your phones down, guys. Focus, be awake. Write down what I'm writing down. That kind of a thing. Okay. So x squared is just going to be x and x, right? So what numbers multiply to give us 12? We've got 1 and 12. What else? 6 and 2. What else? 3 and 4. Which ones are going to add up to 7? 3 and 4. So I want to use these. So I get 3x and 4x. That does add to 7x. So my answer is just x plus 3, x plus 4. Okay, let's try another one. How about this one? Y squared minus 81. So if you're looking, this isn't a grouping one because there's not 4. There's not 3, so I can't use the trinomials, just the Punnett square thing. So what is this? What are we going to do? Y and y, and then? There you go. That's it. Done. If these are both perfect squares, you just know one's positive, one's negative. Okay? Let's do another one. What if I've got x squared minus x minus 6? What do I do? Punnett square, okay. X squared goes here, and we know it's x and x, right? Negative 6 goes here. So we're going to say, we want this to be negative, right? So we want a positive 1, negative 6, right? Because we want, when they add together, it to give us, oh, that doesn't work, right? That gives me negative 5. Negative 3 and positive 2. So I get 2x and negative 3x. When I add those together, do I get negative 1? Yeah. So see how we crossed those out and did that trial by error? That happens. Okay? Don't let that discourage you. You'll find it. Okay. What should I do for this one? This is the last one of factoring, and then we'll move on. What if I have 10x squared y minus 15xy squared? What do I do in this situation? There's not 4 of them. There's not 3 of them. There are 2, but neither are a perfect square. What do I need to do in this case?
They just stay the same because you can't do anything, right?
What can I take out of both of these? X. What else? They're squared for this one. It's not squared for this one. What else do they have in common? Y. What else do they have in? What do 10 and 15 have in common? 5. So 5xy times what gives me 10x squared y? 5 times 2. I need 2 x's, so I need it 2x, right? Then I need negative. 5 times what gives me 15? 3. So I have 1x, so I'm good. Y times what gives me y squared? Y. There you go. Okay. We ready? You have this sheet in front of you right here. We are going to go down to number 12. We're going to look at number 12. Okay. Is there anything I can do to simplify the top? No, we're just going to leave it as x plus 6. Okay, so the bottom. We have x squared plus 5x minus 6. That's when we start factoring again. This is a Punnett square one. So I have x squared and negative 6. What times what gives me negative 6 but adds together to give me 5? Positive 6 and negative 1, right? Because we want a positive 5. That gives me positive 5. So I've got x plus 6 times x minus 1. Is there anything I can cross out? Because it'll give me 1. Guys, shh. Anything I can cross out? These 2, right? So I'm just left with 1 over x minus 1. Better? Okay, let's turn it over. Let's look at number 15. I can factor, I believe, the top and the bottom. Okay? So first I'm going to do a little Punnett square for the top. What times what gives me 12 that will add up to 8? 4 and 3 adds up to 7. I want to add it up to 8. 2 and 6, right? So I get 6x and 2x. That adds up to 8x. So my top is x plus 2 times x plus 6. So now let's do the bottom. Get my little Punnett square out. X squared, negative 18. What 2 numbers multiply to give us negative 18 but add to give us 3? 3 and 6? Which one's positive, which one's negative? Yeah, it does. The 3. That adds to give us 3. So we have x minus 3 and x plus 6. Do you guys see that there's an x plus 6 on the top and the bottom? Cancel. X plus 2, x minus 3. Now let's talk about this part. What can x not be? What can't x be? Because I can't have a 0 on the bottom, right? What do I plug in for x that would give me a 0 on the bottom? 3. X can't be 3. Okay. Let's look at 17. Let's go ahead and make a Punnett square for the top. We've got negative 28. We've got b squared, so b squared is b and b. What two numbers multiply to give us 28, negative 28, but adds together to give us 3? 7 and 4. 7 times 4 is 28. So I've got a positive 7. And what kind of 4 am I going to have? Negative 4. Okay, so I end up with b minus 4 times b plus 7. What's the bottom going to factor to be? B squared minus 49.
7.
B and b minus 7, right?
Yes.
These cancel. I'm left with b minus 4, bless you, over b minus 7. What can b not be?
B cannot be.
What's going to make 0 on the bottom?
Positive 7.
Positive 7. How are we feeling about these? Yeah?
Pretty smooth, I think. We should go for more.
Okay. Let's do number 19, because I've seen you guys look at some of these and be real confused. What can I take out of the top?
N.
Not n, but 4. I'm left with n minus 1. What can I take out of the bottom? So it can't be a 6, right? 'Cause 6 doesn't go into 20. 3 doesn't go in there, so it's a 2, right? 2. So I'm left with 3n minus 10. Okay? Now, 4 over 2, what does that reduce to? 4 divided by 2 is? 2 over 1, right? So 2 on top, 1 on the bottom, or nothing on the bottom. Okay, now this one's hard, because I want to figure out what n can't be. But it's not 10, right? Because 3 times 10 is 30. 30 minus 10 is 20. So I want 3n minus 10 to equal 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 10. And then I'm going to divide by 3. So n cannot be 10 over 3. You can figure that out as a decimal if you want, or you can just leave it as a fraction. It's fine. Okay, you guys ready to try your homework now?
Yes.
Okay, so your homework for today is going to be, okay, is just these 9 problems where you're going to be simplifying them. So you've got to pull out like terms, you've got to factor them, but that's what your homework is, okay? Anybody have questions? All right, if you have questions while going over your homework, we'll ask and we'll come help.